What is going on? Welcome to this week's episode of the 1 Second of Strength podcast. Wherever you're at, grateful you're here. Grateful you're spending those valuable seconds with me. Today it is me and my dog Putter, who is sitting over there. He's in his fields because I didn't take him on a walk. He knows that word, so I can't say it out loud. But today we're going to talk a little bit about happiness, and specifically one ingredient to your happiness, whether you're a teenager, whether you're an adult, that is absolutely critical. So there is a study that has been going on at Harvard University for 85 years, the study on happiness. It's the longest running study that is out there in the world. And they've been doing the study, and as people have aged, these men that were in the study, as they've aged, they've included their wives, and like the study is the study is absolutely fascinating. And just a couple of things. So it started in 1938, and there's a book called The Good Life by Dr. Robert Waldinger that goes into depth about this study. But I think what we learn from it is exactly one of the key ingredients to your happiness. And it truly doesn't matter what age you are, but when you break this down, you identify that happiness is within your reach. It isn't always that difficult, but it is possible. And when you think about happiness, there's a couple of things. Number one, 50% of it is kind of who you are, like your genetics and your predisposition. There's 10% of it that's like your circumstances, and it's just like things that you can't really control. But then there are 40% of things that you can actually change. And this falls into that level of really things that you can change, that you can adapt so that you can be happier. But before we dive into like the truth of what that moment is, there's a couple of things that I just found super interesting about this study. Number one is that people get happier as they age because they're focusing on more positive things. They're selective about how they spend their time. They savor the moments a little bit more. When you're getting closer to, dying, you tend to savor the things that you have. It becomes a little bit really important. And so, one, I think just if you're a teenager listening to this, and I know that a lot of teenagers do listen to this podcast, just know that, the things that you're struggling through, middle school, high school, like those things will pass. And happiness does get better as you get older. You get happier as you get older. So I think when we're young, we tend to focus and we just kind of look at our internal world or our small world. And when life is hard, like life is hard. But the reality is that middle school, high school is only 7% of your life. And so if you think about that long path that you have in front of you, things are going to get better. So people get happier as they age. Another thing that is really interesting is that people are proudest. They're like the achievements that they are proudest of always comes back to their relationships. Were they a good parent? Were they a good friend? Were they a good partner? And so that's really where this, the rule of happiness really takes off, is it comes down to your relationships. And what Robert Waldinger would call it is he'd call it social fitness. And so if you think about your body, right? Like we need to exercise, we need to do all of these things physically so that we can be stronger, so that we can be happier. And there's so many studies that are tied to our happiness based on our physical movement and being able to move our body and exercise. And when we do, the endorphins are released, and it truly impacts your happiness. Well, social fitness is truly no different. And if you want to be happier, then we've got to focus on that. And some things that came out of the study that are really interesting is in 1983, as they were tracking this long 85-year study, right, that started in 1938. And so this was, 50 years later, 45 years later, they found that 12% of people lacked a confidant, somebody that they could really talk to. Well, what's interesting is that in 2003, that same question asked again, 25% of people lacked a confidant. And the reality is that when we think about social fitness, if you want to be happier, it comes down to the relationships in your life. The problem that is so easy to see as you live in the world today is that too many of us, teenagers, adults included, we're looking down at our screens all the time, and we are spending less and less time connecting with people outside of a device, right? And so that social connection becomes so critically important. And what they found is that excuse me, what they found is that lonely is as powerful a predictor of poor health as, and this is crazy to hear, but loneliness is as powerful a predictor of poor health as smoking a half a pack of cigarettes a day. It's as much as high blood pressure in a person or obesity. And that might sound crazy, right? But the reality is that when we are lonely, we start to harbor all of these stresses and all of these things that we put on our shoulders, and where there's no outlet for them. And so when we do that and we harbor all these stressors and we carry so much weight on our shoulders, it can lead to early cognitive decline. It can lead to impaired sleep, decreased immunity, chronic inflammation, higher disposition of cardiac challenges, stress-induced hypertension. And so we're carrying all this weight, and because we don't have as many people that we are connecting with and that are in our circle of relationships, and we are leaning towards loneliness more often, we are basically putting our body in a deficit where these different challenges start arising more and more and more. And look, smoking is not as prevalent as it used to be, but a half a pack of cigarettes a day, like, can you even imagine? And then just kind of put it into perspective and go, well, loneliness or not having those people in your life to connect with, that is the same. It does the exact same thing. And so the question is, if you want to be happier, if you want to live longer, if you want to change your life. And again, 40% of the things you can change. And Dr. Waldinger also said that when you are lonely, it actually magnifies the loneliness because people can see it in you and they actually stay away from you more. And so what that means is that, and I do know that there's people who are lonely, and this world is not just like, hey, everybody's got friends. I know that there's some real challenges and people are lonely. And, some people are introverts, some people are extroverts, some people really want to have a circle of friends and some people don't. Maybe you just need that one or two people that you can connect with. And it truly doesn't matter if that group of friends is your family. It doesn't matter if it's, people outside your family. What matters is that you have people in your life to connect with so that you can offload some of the stresses that you're shouldering and harboring. And I don't mean offload in terms of it's their problem now. It's always going to be your thing that you have to deal with, whatever challenge you're facing in your life. But regardless of what challenge it is, when you've got somebody that you can talk to, it helps a lot. I think a lot about, like, in school, you've got these assignments, and some of those assignments you have to do on your own, and some of those assignments are group assignments. I always loved the group assignments, not because it was easier, but I loved being able to talk with people and bounce ideas off of people so that I could come up with the right solution or the right answers to the problem or the challenge or the most creative way to come at something. And I see it no differently. When we're alone, it's not like when we have a group of friends, it's not like we're offloading all of our challenges onto those people. It's just that we can collectively go at them together. We saw a friend that I hadn't seen for a couple of months at dinner the other night. Just ran into them at the restaurant, and as we were leaving, he said, "Hey, if you need anything, call me. If you need to talk through something, give me a call." And he's in a similar state as I am in terms of work and, things that he does. And he works, a lot on his own. I work a lot on my own. And it was just like, hey, just an outlet to call, right? And so that's what it is. And so what happens is then, what do we do, right? So maybe you are someone who is more of an introvert like I am. And I know that sounds crazy that I'm an introvert, but I am. Like, I go and speak, but like, the connecting with people before or afterwards, like, it's not always my favorite thing to do, or like to go grab dinner with people. Like, I'd rather just go to a hotel room and decompress, right? But but what it comes down to is we have to be really, really intentional about making sure we are setting time in our life to connect with people so that we can improve our health and well-being. This is what social fitness is. And so there's just a couple of things that I would recommend, and just a challenge that I would give you today, tomorrow, this week, the rest of this year into 2026, if you're listening to this about when it was launched. But number one, it's really easy to just send a text message to somebody and let them know that you're thinking about them. It's really easy to just fire off a text and just be like, hey, hope you're doing well, just thinking about you. And when you do that, you start to make sure that you are sending out those those feelers, those emotions, so that you're connecting with those people. And on the very simple level, just no strings attached, just connect with someone. And when you do that, it just lets them know that you are there. Because what happens is that, and I would ask, maybe challenge you, is who would you call if you were woken up in the middle of the night and you were scared about something that was outside your apartment, your house, your whatever? Who's that person that you would call? Who is that person that you would call if you feel like you're in a funk and you need to just grow? You need to get around people that are in growth mode in their life, because what the people we surround ourselves with, that influences us, right? So who are those people? But we have to maintain those relationships. So number one, send a text to somebody on your mind, no strings attached, just connect with them. And I want to challenge you to find somebody in your Rolodex. Y'all don't know what a Rolodex is. Teenagers don't know what a Rolodex is. Somebody in your contact list that every day that you can just send a text to, just connect, and do that for a week. Try it for a week and see what comes of it. And when you start fostering those relationships, you will start changing internally. Number two is I want you to schedule it. So years ago, I had read a book from a friend of mine. His name is Justin Whitmell Early. And his book talks about covenant friendship. And covenant friendship is that friend who is your friend no matter what. No matter what they do, no matter what you do, you are connected, you are friends. But what happened was I felt like I was lacking relationship in my life. So I reached out to an old friend from high school and I just said, hey, can we talk? And we jumped on a phone call and we had a good chat. And I said, hey, can we do this more often? And we scheduled to talk to each other every 2 weeks. And for about 6 to 8 months, every 2 weeks, we jumped on a call and we talked to each other for 20 to 30, 45 minutes. And it was really refreshing to have that person in my life that I could just lean on to have conversations that I wouldn't necessarily have with my wife or with somebody else. And so it was that, that confidant that I needed to help me through those moments. And so schedule it. Number one, send a text to somebody, no strings attached. Just make sure you are sending out those feelers, those tentacles to make sure you're connected. Number two is schedule it. Use that covenant friendship from my friend Justin Whitmell Early. And then number three is I want you to be the person that you need in your life. So if you need that person that is that you would call for safety, or that you would call if you need to grow, or you would call if you need anything else, some emotional support in your life, I want you to be that person intentionally for other people. And that might be for your spouse. It might be for your friends. It might be for whoever. But you have to be intentional about putting yourself in position to be that person. And don't be upset if you're not that person yet. But if you are not present in their life, don't be expected to be present in their problems. Does that make sense? So if we are sitting around scrolling on our phones all the time, don't expect to be the person who someone goes to when they need some emotional support or some type of help in their life. I was talking with my daughter just yesterday. She was at a friend's playing games over the weekend, and they were playing some game, and she was the moderator of this game, and all of a sudden everybody's on their phones. No one's even intentional about even playing the game. Well, I can guarantee if those people are always on the phone, then they're not going to be the people that my daughter goes to when she needs some support. So be present. If you're not present in their lives because you're sitting on your phone all the time, don't expect to be present in the problems. When they need support, when they need something, you're not going to be the person that they go to. And so you have to be very intentional to be that person. So, I hope this helps you. I think a lot about happiness. I think about my own happiness. I think about teenagers. I think about you. And the reality is that happiness is possible. There are things that you can change today. I always say, you might need to change some things if you want some things to change in your life. And one of those things that you might need to change is you might need to adjust a little bit how your relationship is with the people around you, the people that matter most in your life. You might need to be a little more intentional. You might need to spend a little bit of time focusing on that instead of focusing on our phones, because at the end of the day, and the study is so incredible in the book, The Good Life, because at the end of the day, your happiness is tied to your long-term health, and your long-term health is tied to your social fitness. Your long-term health is tied to how you are able to connect with and interact with other people. So I hope that helps you today. Share this with someone, and also go leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to these episodes. If it's on Apple Podcasts or if it's on Spotify, maybe you're listening on Amazon, maybe it's on YouTube, but just go leave a rating, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Share this with one other person. There's somebody who might need this today, somebody in your life. I believe that you are a unique connector from me to other people in your life, and somebody might need this today. And so as part of maybe your text message that you send to people, that you send to someone, maybe you send an episode of the podcast so that they can listen as well. So anyway, I hope you're well. And I will leave you the same way I always leave you. Go find your 1 second of strength and be happy.